Okay, awesome. Let's learn the passive voice. Okay. What and why and when are we going to use the passive voice? Well, the passive voice can be used when you're writing scientific papers. So let's say you did a research on a topic. It's preferable if you use the passive voice. The passive voice is used for general or public opinion, okay? When you want to separate yourself from a particular situation, we tend to use the passive voice. When the object is more important than the subject, okay? So who is receiving the action is more important than who is doing the action. Also for news report, okay? Relating to crime scenes, okay? So if a person is reporting what they saw, they want to have like an impersonal distance from that situation, so they tend to use the passive voice. Perfect. Now that we understand when and why we use the passive voice, let's dive into the structure. Okay, the passive voice is made up of two important verb forms. The first part is the verb to be. The verb to be in this case is acting as the auxiliary verb, okay? This means that the verb to be can be in all the tenses that exist in the English language, from the present tense to the future tense, from the past tense to the future tense, from the perfect to the continuous tenses, okay? So as to put it. So we can put it in all the tenses that exist. Then we have the next part, which is the past participle. And this is going to act as the main verb in the sentence. So let's say your verb is cook, then you're going to put it in the past participle. So we need two things, the verb to be plus the past participle. Awesome. Now that we have that out of the way, let's check an example. John writes a book. John is the subject because he's doing the action. Writes is the verb or the action in the sentence. A book is the object because it's receiving the action. So now that we have identified each part of the sentence, so we know that the subject, the verb, and the object. How would we write this exact sentence that is in the active voice in the passive voice? Well, now remember, the passive voice focuses on who or what is receiving the action. In this case, the book is more important than John. So we have to start the sentence with a book. Perfect. So a book. Remember, the structure is the verb to be plus the past participle. But there's something important that we have to pay attention to, which is the main verb right here. Writes is in the present simple tense. That means that I have to put the verb to be in the present simple tense as well. So a book, it is singular, it is third person, so we have to use is. Our main verb is writes, okay? To write is a verb, so we have to put the verb to write in the past participle, which is irregular, so it becomes written. A book is written. That's the structure of the passive voice. We can choose to include a by phrase. What does that mean? This little part here, by, and you put who did the action. So by John is called the by phrase. In certain cases, we can use, okay, or we can include a by phrase when it's a proper noun. That means it's the name of a person, it's the name of something, it's the name of a specific idea, situation, business, company, etc. But if you're referring to common nouns, okay, like people, a boy, the man, it's not necessary to include a by phrase. Perfect. Let's move on. In this chart, I try to resume all the different tenses that we have in the active voice and how we can put them in the passive voice, okay, in English. Perfect. We're going to use the same example that we just analyzed. John writes a book. We know that a book is receiving the action, so we start the sentence with a book. Writes, as we mentioned before, is the present simple tense, so I have to put the verb to be in the present simple tense, and since the verb is writes, I have to put that verb in the past participle, and I can include a by phrase. Over here, I chose to include an example, okay, to show you the plural form. In this case, if we were talking about many books, so let's say more than one books, the books, all we have to do is to change the verb to be to the plural form, which is are. So the books are written by John. If you notice, the structure doesn't change. Perfect. John is writing a book. This is the present continuous tense. John is writing a book. Is writing. Okay, now let's focus on a book. A book, third person, we need the verb to be. So that's always going to be is in this case. But since it's a continuous tense, we have to use being. So basically, you're using the verb to be 2 times. Yes, it is weird, but we're using the verb to be twice. A book is being. Now the verb to be has to have ing because it has to indicate that it's the continuous form. And then since the main verb is write, we have to put that in the past participle. So a book is being written by John. Perfect. Let's move on to the simple past tense. John wrote a book. A book, since this is the past tense, we have to put the verb to be in the simple past as well, which can be was or were. A book is singular, so let's use was. A book was, and then the past participle is written by John. John was writing a book. This is the past continuous tense. Remember, whenever you see ing at the end of the verb, it's indicating continuous tense, okay? It's an ongoing action. So what are we going to do? A book, we know that it's the past tense, so we have to use was because it's singular. It's one book, okay? Was, and to indicate that it is continuous, we have to use being again. You see the same way we use it up here? We have to use being again plus the past participle. A book was being written by John. Awesome. John has written a book. This is the present perfect tense. Now, let's focus on the object. A book. We're talking about the perfect tense, so we need to use have, okay, plus the past participle. So in this case, has, because it's third person, a book has, and then we have to use been. The been is going to indicate that is the perfect tense. You know, like in the continuous tense, we use being. Been is going to indicate that it's a perfect tense, plus the verb in the past participle, and then by John. So a book has been written by John. The next one, John had written a book. This is the past perfect tense, okay? Had plus past participle gives us the past perfect tense. Now let's focus on the object. A book had, so we always have to follow the structure over here, okay? It's past perfect, so we have to use the same. Had and been, remember, been is always indicating that it's a perfect tense. So had been written by John. John will write a book. Let's focus on the object. A book, since we're using the modal verb will, we bring it over here. It's the same way. And in this case, we're going to use be, only be, and then the past participle written. Why are we using be, okay, in this case? Because will is a modal verb. Every verb that comes after the modal verbs, like will, can, could, may, has to be in base form. So we just put the verb as it is, be, look, cook, watch, okay? We don't do anything to the verb. So will plus the base form plus the verb in past participle. A book will be written by John. Another example of the modal verb is can. John can write a book. Sorry, it's not sure. Okay. John can write a book. A book can be, because it's a modal verb, so we always have to use base form. A book can be written by John. So this is the complete structure of the passive voice in English. As you can see, the same tenses that we use in the active voice, we can also use them in the passive voice, okay? If it's necessary, you can re-watch the video, okay? Or you can take a screenshot of this chart so that you have it, okay? To review later. Perfect. We will move on with the next part of the course in a moment.